Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you here in person at the Wyndham Garden Hotel, we welcome you today. Those of you watching online via our Zoom meeting, we welcome you as well. If you're watching on a recording, we ask that you please register your viewership to get credit for being at the meeting today. If you're watching on YouTube, you can do that by emailing info@rotarygainesville.org. Again, that's rotary@gainesville.org. My name is Tom Collette, your Sergeant at Arms, welcoming you to this Rotary Club of Gainesville meeting for Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. And we will begin with song. And one of our song leaders could not make it today, so yours truly will sing God Bless America. Please sing along. You ready, Gordon? God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Now, please remain standing, those of you here, and join me now in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. No, I apologize. Please remain standing because via Zoom today, we have an invocation offered by Catherine Price.
Good morning, everyone. Good to be with you via Zoom. On Sunday, Trinity, where I serve as one of the pastors, had its 26th worship service online only. We never dreamed it would be a half a year. And the same was true for Rotary. We never imagined the changes that we would be incurring. But it's good to be together. And so I invite you to bow your heads and pray with me. Good and generous God, we are grateful to be able to gather together for conversation and support and learning, whether sitting together in the banquet room at the Wyndham or in our workplaces or homes. We share in this time which sustains and strengthens us. As we yearn for a time when all of us will be together again in one place, filled with conversation and laughter, with lunch and learning and fellowship. In the meantime, give us wisdom and purpose during these unusual times that continue. As some right now struggle with the loss of business income, some try to balance their children in digital academy and working from home, some continue to feel the void due to isolation and loneliness. Help us to support and uphold one another, and empower us, O God, to continue to make a difference in our community, offering the commitment, service, hope, and generosity that we offer now more than ever. Amen.
Amen. You may be seated now. Thank you very much, Catherine. If we have any members who have guests, we invite you to remain standing and introduce your guest if you have someone with you. Seeing none, we have a busy program for you today, always an enjoyable program. We'll get to that in just a moment. For his comments now, please welcome to the microphone your president, Matthew Brady.
Hey, for 26 people in here, we'll take this off just briefly, now that we can separate here and, challenging enough with that southern drawl that the mask can add some additional fuzziness. But for 26 people in here today, nice applause, maybe not earned, but much appreciated. So I looked real quick. We got 54 online, 26 here, 54 online. We're about 80 right now. Thank you each and all. And great to see those that are here. Not a lot to say today other than a lot of words of appreciation. You know, putting this together here, I keep mentioning it, but, Wes and Joe and Don, myself, I mean, we're getting here 10:30 and then Brendan and Greg and David Gracie staying, and then we're here till 1:30 and after, breaking down. It's getting better each week. It's getting easier, but I just cannot say enough how much I appreciate all that are putting these cameras together, those that are working on check-in, and we've been delivering some food, Brendan as well, and Greg. So really a team effort and a great job. We're going to continue. I'm not going to say it in a negative way. We're going to continue to tweak and make it better. I've received many different points of excellent feedback that we can consider in the weeks ahead. Right now, we're working to perfect Plan A, and then we'll enhance and go from there. So, we want to be able to, you're at Zoom, you can see all the different names, and we would like for maybe, if you cannot see on the camera, you can see the names of who's here and things of that nature. So please continue to give me all feedback and constructive criticism. We're going to work diligently on that and continue to do the best we can. But as Tom said, well, let me back up a second. Tom himself, he stepped in and with today's song and filled that gap, and I'm just much appreciative for everything that he's doing and adapting with a command center here, and we keep finding good things. So, but as he said, full agenda, one of my favorite programs. I've heard that several times today from people that are here and some chat, and I really appreciate George Mazzeo and helping coordinate that. We hopefully will be able to have this program twice in this calendar year, as today is circling back and trying to fill the things that we missed because of COVID. So maybe we can continue to put those pieces back together and the things that we've missed and enjoy. So with that said, retired Colonel George Mazzeo, I will hand the mic to you, sir.
Thank you, President Matthew. Welcome, everybody. For the past 30 years, actually more than 30 years, the Rotary Club of Gainesville has been sponsoring an outstanding cadet from each of the military detachments at the University of Florida and been awarding a small scholarship in recognition of their achievement. They have each been chosen by their detachment commanders because they stand out. And they stand out among a very unique group. I say unique because if you were to add up all the cadets in all the 3 detachments at the University of Florida, it would come to somewhere around 300, 350 cadets. That's less than 1% of the population of the student body. So they're unique, they're self-identified as unique, and among that unique group, well, they've stood out, and we're going to hear about them from their commanders. The award was started, like I said, well over 3 decades ago. Some of you old-time members probably remember Mace Wells, Joe Smith. They put it together, and the presidents and the boards of directors in the ensuing 3 decades have kept the program going, and deservedly so. The award was named after Joe Smith, Colonel Joe Smith, who was my sponsor in the Rotary about 15 years ago. Joe was an F-4 pilot, Vietnam era, and also he was a former professor of aerospace studies at the University of Florida, which means he was the commander of the Air Force dead. So the way this is going to work is that I am going to introduce each detachment commander, and then he is going to introduce his award winner, and then we'll hear from the cadets and midshipmen themselves. And we'll go first with the Air Force, then we'll go to the Navy, then we'll do the Army, and when we're through all 3 of them, then we'll throw the floor open for questions. But I'd like to say a little something about ROTC first. A lot of people have a misconception. They think, well, how tough can it be, ROTC? Throw on a uniform once a week, march around in circles for 4 years, and you're good to go. Couldn't be further from the truth. Takes a huge commitment to succeed in ROTC and get your commission in the U.S. military. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Each of these cadets and midshipmen will take 24 additional credit hours. during their college career. Notice I said additional because almost none of those credit hours will count towards their degree. In many cases, none of them count. Okay, I'm going to vent a little bone of contention with me, but apparently in academia, a leadership course taught by a military officer who's actually led something does not have the same value as a leadership course taught by a graduate assistant who's read about it a lot. I feel better. All right. Besides taking 24 additional credit hours, all right, they are going to, well, their classmates are tucked away in their bed sleeping. They're going to get up at the crack of dawn and show up for physical fitness training because the requirements are pretty rigorous there too. And then finally, one summer in their academic career, they have to give up to go to field training, which is basically a group leadership training in preparation for commissioning. So the commitment is enormous. And why do they do it? Well, hopefully, they'll tell us when we get a chance to talk to them. But my experience has been that everyone's got their own story and everyone's got their own reason. So without further ado, we'll start with our first detachment commander. He's commander of the Air Force ROTC detachment, Lieutenant Colonel Shannon Moore. This is Lieutenant Colonel Moore's last year with us. He'll be moving on to bigger and better things, but hopefully we'll still see him again when we have this meeting again in the spring. So Colonel Moore, over to you.
Thank you, Colonel Mazzeo. Appreciate it. And to the Rotary Club, very much appreciate you inviting us back every year. I don't know what I'm doing next year. I don't know if it's bigger and better. This job here could not be bigger and better. I absolutely love it. And as you listen to all the cadets and midshipmen talk today, they're phenomenal young people in America doing great things, and I'm glad they bring them along to represent. I will say just a quick, hopefully plug to the Rotary in the spring. If we can do this in person, you owe me 2 lunches. One in the spring and one now. I remember last year, the best part about this, other than the cadets talking, was the nice people and the good food. So high expectations for the spring. But here to talk about Cadet Payne. So specifically, when we were asked to select the cadets, I think some of the criteria were GPA and fitness and overall leadership. And it took me about 1 second to decide who I was going to select for our cadet. For academics, just quickly mention she is a chemistry student. And if any of you have even tried to spell chemistry, it's not easy. And so not only did she pick that as a major, as a scholarship winner for the Air Force, but she's doing quite well with a high GPA. For her fitness, she's number 2 for females in our detachment. So for fitness, she's never had an issue. In fact, she's excelling. But it's not just meeting this criteria and doing well. From the get-go, I got here 2 years ago. She was a brand new freshman. And it took me just a couple of PT sessions, lead lab sessions, and classes to realize that who is this cadet that's leading everybody, who's yelling like crazy, who's standing out, but not because she wants to, but because that's who she is. And that was Cadet Payne. Everything that we've asked her to do, she's been out in front. She's led, she's motivated, both externally, intrinsically. She's basically doing all the things that you would hope that a cadet in America going into the Air Force would be doing. Not only that, but my mandate is to create leaders with character. And I can tell you that every turn, everything that we see her do, her character is on display, more so than the PT, more so than the academics. She is exactly the kind of person that I hope to commission into the Air Force and to lead the people of our country. So without further ado, I turn it over to Cadet Payne to give her remarks. And Cadet Payne, I wanted to say candidly, thank you for being the epitome of the kind of cadet that we have, and that the others around us can see you work hard and try to emulate you as you progress through our program. So thanks for what you do.
Thank you, Colonel Moore. Firstly, I want to thank the Rotary Club. This is an amazing opportunity, and I wasn't even aware that it was a thing, so I was a little shocked and just immensely grateful. A little bit about myself. 2 of my 4 older brothers are currently in the military. One's enlisted Navy and one's a 2nd lieutenant in the Air Force. So having that exposure to the military side of things, my brother who's in the Air Force right now kind of pushed me into doing ROTC, and I'm so thankful that he did, because I love the program. I love all the experiences I've had from it. So that's kind of why I'm in Air Force ROTC currently. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm studying biochemistry for my bachelor's, and I want to get my master's degree in counseling psychology. So after I get my master's, I'd like to go for the clinical therapist AFSC and just work in counseling for the Air Force. That's all I have.
Thank you, Cadet Payne, Lieutenant Colonel Moore. Like I said, there'll be opportunities to ask questions when all the cadets are done speaking. Now I'm going to introduce you to the new commander of the Navy and Marine ROTC detachment at the University of Florida, Captain J.P. Dunn. I've only met him via Zoom, but I have read his biography, and he is a Naval Academy graduate, and his background is in surface warfare, which are ships, and aviation. So he's covered the whole gamut, and it'd be interesting to hear a little bit about him and also his cadet, Captain Dunn.
Thanks, Colonel Mazzeo. I appreciate that introduction. It's been a long, strange trip for me in my career. And as I look at Midshipman Second Class Reppert's career, as he gets going, it's really phenomenal what he's done so far. Yes, this is my first meeting with the Rotary. Unfortunately, it is with Zoom. And to be honest, I have never personally met Midshipman Second Class Reppert other than Zoom. So I'm looking forward to doing that here as we get closer to the spring, and as the pandemic fades, hopefully we'll get a chance to get together and be a battalion once again. But I do know that he was chosen by my predecessor, Captain Sil Perella, who had nothing but great things to say about Midshipman Reppert. First off, he's a native of Arlington, Virginia. He's a health sciences major with a 3.92 GPA. He's rocking it. He's also outstanding PRT scores, has won the outstanding fitness award 3 times running for fall 19, spring of 19, fall of 19, and then also spring of 20. So I expect once we get him back here in the building and we can start running PRTs again, he's going to be a big part of that, because he's also our division officer for our command fitness leaders. So he's going to be doing actually leading the midshipmen in their PT. A little thing about him. First off, I noted out of his bio, because I'm one too. He's an Eagle Scout. That means something to me, and that means something in our nation as well. That core, that foundation of what a person is and what a midshipman is. He's an Eagle Scout. He also comes from a long line of service. His father was a Army Ranger, first lieutenant. His grandfather was a brigadier general in the Army, but more importantly, his other grandfather was a 20-year commander SEAL. So it looks like, fortunately, we were able to rip him away from the Army to bring him over to the Navy. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Midshipman Reppert has to say. Even looking more forward to meeting him here later on in this semester and into next semester. But it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Midshipman Second Class Clayton Reppert, your award winner for the Navy Marine Corps ROTC.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Midshipman Second Class Reppert. As Captain Dunn said, my family's from Arlington, Virginia, as both of my grandfathers served and spent time at the Pentagon. And when I commission, I'll be a 5th-generation service member. And with that, growing up, my family instilled in me the value of duty to service. And from that value, I've committed myself to the idea that non-action is a permissive choice. I will not overlook and accept the injustices occurring every day in our world. Right now, I'm studying on the pre-med track so I can become a doctor after I commission or after my time in the Navy. But serving others through medicine and this career as a doctor is dependent on the brave men and women who go and fight for those freedoms that we have. And for this reason, I hope to service select SEALs like my grandfather had 50 years ago. And I hope to do this when I commission so that I can put absolutely everything my body has capable towards protecting those who can't protect themselves. Thank you to the Gainesville Rotary Club for putting this together and going to great lengths in making this happen even during a global pandemic. and thank you very much for the award.
Thank you, Midshipman Rippert. And last but certainly not least, we will go to the Army. The new commander there is Lieutenant Colonel John Ferry. I have not met John yet. He's so new. But he is going to introduce his winner. That would be Cadet Andrew Harris. John?
Hey, thank you so much. We truly appreciate all the support the Rotary has given to all the ROTC programs. Thank you so much. Like you said, brand new, so I'm gonna actually hand it over to one of the instructors, Captain Zach Haith. He was actually Cadet Harris's instructor, and I think be more personable as far as why he was selected. So Zach.
Appreciate it, sir. And Colonel Mazzeo and the Rotary Club of Gainesville, thank you for this opportunity to present Cadet Andrew Harris. So Cadet Andrew Harris is from Houston, Texas. He's a 3.71 psychology major. And then, so last summer, Cadet Harris declined his 3-year Army ROTC scholarship and chose to enlist in the Florida National Guard, where he received a National Guard contract where he is an 11 Bravo infantryman. So he's dual-hatted between an ROTC cadet, where his academics are top 3 amongst his junior class, and his PT score is tied for the lead amongst his junior class. And then on the weekends, as I previously said, he is an 11 Bravo in the Florida National Guard. He takes the time to mentor his fellow peers and the last year's MS1s as well in small unit infantry tactics. And he has a extremely bright future, and just proud to present him to you guys, collectively, the Rotary Club of Gainesville.
Thank you for that, sir. First and foremost, I want to thank the Rotary Club for this award. I'm very humbled and honored to have received it. It was very cool to hear kind of the background of it. I didn't realize it went nearly as far back as it did. So it just makes it all the more humbling to have received it. A little bit about myself. As Captain Haith mentioned, I'm from the Houston, Texas area. I followed my 2 older brothers here to the University of Florida. So that's what brought me to this great university. They did not pursue careers in the military, so I'm kind of a trendsetter of doing this in my family. There's a few reasons I'm interested in pursuing a commission as an active duty Army officer. To name a few, I'm very passionate about leadership, serving my country, and then just the structure of the military in general. As Captain Haith mentioned, I enlisted in the National Guard. However, I do plan on commissioning active duty and making a career out of it. As far as what I want to do in the Army, I'm a little bit torn. I've got another year to decide. However, if I had to make a decision now, I would be set on aviation, as I've always had an interest in learning to fly different aircraft, and I think that would be a great step in the right direction. So with all that said, I'll pass it on to the next speaker. And again, I'm very thankful for this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Cadet Harris. So you've heard from all the award winners. If you have any questions, please submit them now. We'll give you a minute or 2 to do it. And I assume Tom, the Sergeant at Arms, will handle these questions.
I'm here at the podium. We have Don Bugos, who, if anyone wants to ask a question here, he will put them on, Colonel. If you're online, please go ahead and type those into the chat, and we will ask those questions directly to the appropriate personnel.
See, there's a lot on the line here for me, y'all, because if you don't ask enough questions, then I'm committed to tell a war story. That ought to get them motivated.
Nothing wrong with that. We have someone in the back says, tell a classic funny one. Oh, classified. He can't do that.
I told you last year, after 30 years, I'm out of funny ones. I'm out of good ones. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions, does it?
Well, we do. We have one from Kirk Klein. He'd like to address it to each of our cadets this morning or afternoon. Give us a sketch of your typical day. Let's start with the Army. What do you think?
Sure. To answer that question, I would say a typical day is going to begin with PT in the morning. So that's going to be from 6 to 7. And unlike let's say West Point or a senior military academy, going to an ROTC program at a four-year university allows more flexibility in your schedule. So every aspect of your day is not completely controlled by ROTC. So for the Army, I know we have class either Tuesday or Wednesday. It's a 2-hour block period. And then we have a lab where we apply practical exercises in person. But as far as a day-to-day schedule goes, it's fairly typical to any other college student, aside from the fact that PT is a regular occurring thing. But other than that, it's very flexible. That's what I would say a typical day goes.
Next, our representative from the Navy, ROTC.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I would say the Navy ROTC is probably pretty similar to Army ROTC in the general description of things, but I'll give you a few specifications about the Navy that will be different. So we only have PT on Monday and Wednesday mornings. I'm not sure what the exact schedule is for Army, but we have PT again, like around from about 0 to 6 to 0 to 7. And then in order to achieve my goals, I'll usually work out later that evening as well. And then each semester we have a specific Navy class. And so the class that I'm taking is called Navy Engineering Ship Systems. So we'll be learning about different engines and parts of ships this semester. And then next semester, we'll be focusing more on the weapons side of ships. And then on Tuesdays, we'll have a leadership lab period or drill lab. We do a number of different things there. That's where there's the most variety in our schedule. We can do things like briefs about important information, or also just camaraderie building events like unit soccer games.
Cadet Payne, you're up.
For Air Force, it's the same as Army and Navy when it comes to the military side of things. So we have PT from 06 to 07 in the mornings. We also have a leadership lab period, which is 2 hours on Thursdays, where we have professional development scenarios. We also have drill, which because of the pandemic isn't much of a thing anymore. But that's where we instill all of the leadership aspects of ROTC into the cadets. And we also have a 3-hour period of Air Force class for juniors and seniors. And that's where we have a cadre member come in and teach us about active duty and about the Air Force and the history and all that stuff. But when it comes to just being a college person, it's the only difference is we wake up from 06 to 07, and then that's where our day begins for me. I have classes in the morning from 8:30 to about 11:30, and then I have chemistry labs in the evenings. I'm also I have a part-time job, so same for any college kid, you work in between your classes or whenever you have the time. So that's what my day-to-day life kind of looks like.
We'll stay with you, Cadet Payne, for this question for each one of you three. From Jenny Van Hart, how has this pandemic affected your ability to stay focused above and beyond as ROTC requires you to achieve?
So up until a couple of weeks ago, I lived at home with my parents, and my focus didn't really change that much because I felt like I was more secluded. I had a bunch of time to myself. I could really map out my days. But now that I'm back in Gainesville and at UF, you have all your people back around you. And with COVID, classes are online for the most part. So I feel like it's really easy to push those off, including ROTC. So that's the struggle. But the good side of that is it's really, really easy also to map out your time. And with things being online, you have the ability to do what you want when you want to do it. So it all comes down to personal discipline, which I feel like ROTC has really instilled that in me already. So it hasn't changed that much in the fact that, I have to be on top of things for myself. That's all I have.
Thank you. Cadet Harris next.
Sure, to piggyback off that, I would say that a theme that every service member in the armed forces should embody is adapting and overcoming. And so with this time in particular, there was a ton to do with that. The biggest thing I would say is transitioning to a almost entirely online platform. It's a little bit harder, I guess, to learn the practical information as far as learning leadership skills go. But again, adapt and overcome, and that's what we've done thus far during this this strange time, to say the least.
Midshipman Reppert.
Yes, thank you. One thing that my grandfather has taught me, and a lot of his friends from the SEAL community, is kind of this idea of like a bulldog mentality, where what matters next, or what matters most, is what comes right next. Of course, it's important to have this long-term vision and a reason why, but what really matters is the moment that you're in right now. And so for me, oftentimes when I'm studying, it gets really difficult, and I don't want to do anymore. And I've been doing practice problems for a couple hours and I'm ready to be done. But I just remind myself that what I need to focus on is the next problem and getting that done. And then from there, I'll continue to push forward and I'll be pushing forward with the idea and the vision for what I want to do in the future. But in the moment, I'm focusing on what's coming next. And so during this pandemic, when I'm struggling to focus and be pushing myself to the best I can be while I'm alone and isolated from other people, I'm just reminding myself of that I need to be focusing on what comes next and how I can do best in that moment.
Thank you for that wonderful answer. We have a question now for Cadet Payne from Catherine Fluck Price. You want to go into counseling, for which I'm sure there's a great need. What are the primary areas of support needed for those in the military and or specifically the Air Force?
So the next question too kind of addresses this. I'm a biochemistry major. So I don't really, as an undergrad, have the experience to go out and search for the areas in need right now for counseling psychology. But I do know that there is a lot of need for mental health, positive mental health in the military across all branches. And I do know that they have had contractors come in for psychology to help with therapy side of things. And it's becoming much more prevalent, I know, in the Air Force. So getting that positive feedback, it makes me really hopeful that the military is seeing that there's a great need for military members to have that resource, to be able to go to somebody and not have it go against their record, and just be able to get the help that they need, which is any given human right, I feel like. So that's my inspiration for wanting to do that.
Again, if you're watching online via Zoom, please type your questions for our three cadets, Payne, Harris, and Reppert, into the chat box on your screen. We'll get those to them. If you're here at the Wyndham Garden Hotel, we got to keep Don Bugos busy out there in the audience. He has a wireless microphone for you to ask a question to one of these three outstanding young individuals. I'll pose a question to each one of you. We'll start first with the Navy, with Midshipman Reppert. Growing up and into my current age where I am now, a lot of my favorite movies have been themed or true stories involving the military. For each one of you, what was your favorite movie based in the military and why? We'll start with Midshipman Reppert.
One of the first movies that comes to mind for me is probably Top Gun. That's a classic Navy aviation movie. For a while, I was thinking about pursuing a career in aviation just because of that movie. But my grandfather played a really big role in my decision of what to pursue instead. Thank you.
This is Captain Dunn, and I concur with that. Top Gun is foundational for the United States Navy.
Cadet Payne.
Yes, sir. Hacksaw Ridge, I remember watching that my freshman year of high school, and that really struck a heartstring. I feel like I'm gonna go about this a lot, but mental health is such a big deal to me, and I feel like having somebody who's so strong, who believes in what they do, to have that kind of strength mentally and physically, it's amazing and super inspirational, and I love that movie, so that would be mine.
Cadet Harris.
You could call this movie a military movie, or you can't, depending on how you want to define it. But Forrest Gump, I believe, is one of the greatest movies ever, and I think it will continue to be. So that's kind of an abstract answer, but I don't think anyone dislikes the movie Forrest Gump, and I guess it lacks in some of the themes that you automatically think of when you're thinking of military-themed movies. But there's my answer for you.
We'll stick with you then. Complete the sentence. Go Army, beat
Navy. There we go. That's automatic.
Okay. Then we'll go to, let's see who else. We'll go to, let's go next to Midshipman Reppert. You have to finish this sentence. Go Navy.
Beat Army.
I'd like to chime in real quick and address the fact that we PT 4 times a week, and I believe that you PT 2 times a week. Take that as you will, but go Army, beat Navy.
And Cadet Payne, I don't have a sentence for you to complete, but when Army plays Navy, who do you cheer for?
Army, sir.
And just real quick to note, we PT 4 times a week, and there's nothing to be said because usually Air Force beats everybody.
You could maybe beat the Space Force. That's about it.
And that being said, why don't we get a comment from each one of our commanders about the new formation of the Space Force and your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll go first because I don't want the Air Force to try and take the credit for it. My former boss up at the Navy Warfare Development Command was Rear Admiral Hitchcock, and he was actually selected to be the first J3 at the Space Force as they were Space Command, and as they were transitioning to the Space Force. It's a domain, so just like surface, subsurface, air, on the land, on the sea. In the cyber domains, space is a domain, and it's a domain that we cannot cede to the enemy. Ultimately, we've got to be competitive there, just like we're competitive everywhere else on the globe. So to win the wars of the future, we're going to have to dominate in space, and I think that's why the Commander-in-Chief decided to establish the Space Force, and I think that's why it's going to be a vital component and on par with the other components. As we move forward in the future, there's no need. We cannot afford to cede dominance in space. That's what I think.
I absolutely agree, and I'll just mention that. So my career field's ICBMs, and I also have been through Space 100, Space 200, and have some experience in that industry and working behind the scenes. And when you see the total industry that exists and how much our government and our country is working towards supremacy of space, it completely makes sense that the Space Force would exist and also extract, the good parts. Of course, it's predominantly Air Force that funded it or that founded it, but the Navy and the Army to also support standing up that branch of the military. It's a massive industry, and it's something that's going to be here prevalent and a long time into the future. But I am curious to hear what the Army has to say about that.
As you see in my comments, I'll agree with whatever you stated, since it's predominantly or solely airmen assigned to that organization. I have nothing further. You nailed it.
Hey, Tom, I'd like to jump in here too and mention something. This is kind of inside baseball, but when we talk about Space Force, I wonder how many in the club understand that this is going to be a separate branch of the service. It's a poor analogy, but it's the best I can come up with. The Marines are to the Department of the Navy, as Space Force will be to the Department of the Air Force. We're talking about different uniforms. There's even talk about different ranks, isn't there, Shannon? A couple of congressmen have, I've read a couple of articles, they've watched too much Star Trek, and they said, well, you know, James T. Kirk was the naval captain. Maybe we should go from colonels to the captains, that sort of thing. But the thing is that it is a separate branch of the service, and it stood up, I believe, in December of last year.
Well, on that note, though, won't many of the new members of the Space Force be recruited from the other branches of the military, especially you look back into history, when NASA recruited astronauts, they came from the Navy, they came from the Air Force, they came from the Marines. In that original Mercury 7, John Glenn was the only one from the Marine Corps, but most of them were from the Navy or the Air Force.
Right. Well, we've got to remember that in that analogy, NASA was not a branch of the military service. It was a government agency. But yes, you must apply for, Shannon will know the details if you're interested, but you must apply for a cross-service transfer, just as I imagine, Captain Dunn, if you were at the Naval Academy and you wanted to be commissioned in the Marine Corps, you would make the said application. It's going to be the same thing in the Space Force.
Yeah,
We have a
I'm not
question.
aware of any direct accessions to the Space Force yet. I don't think that they've established a pipeline or any kind of, you know, a cadre that would then build units and personnel to join the Space Force. I think it's all transfers in as of right now. But as another branch of the military, that's going to come, and it'll be specialization and along with what their core missions, functions, and tasks are.
We now have a question. Go ahead.
1 second, just to mention, so that is correct. It's been transfers for active duty, but locally we have last year 2 of our seniors that graduated. We did commission directly into the Space Force. So we've already had 2 going, and we have a couple others that will be waiting to find out their career fields this year. But if we do get more Space Force selectees as seniors, they will be commissioning this year into the Space Force directly.
Let's go now to a question from one of our members of the guests here at the Wyndham Garden Hotel. Please state your name and your question for our cadets.
Greg Young, and I'm curious, will the Space Force have a football team?
So I imagine, actually, I don't know the question is, so Captain Dunn, do Marine midshipmen play for the Navy Academy?
They do. It is, so, you know, Navy and, well, midshipmen at the Naval Academy are midshipmen, and they can either serve or select into the Navy or into the Marine Corps based on their qualifications. So I don't know that Space Force would have a football team until they had their own academy. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, pretty much for most questions like that, it's going to be very similar to the Marines with the Navy. The Space Force cadets at the Air Force Academy will be resident at the Air Force Academy, and I would assume only that they would play in that team, and again beat Army and Navy pretty much handedly every year.
I'm interested to know if any of our cadets would be interested in transferring to the Space Force at some point in their careers. Just chime in.
I'll chime in. I don't see that in my foreseeable future, although it could very well happen a ways down the road. But I think for the time being, I'm gonna stick with the Army.
As for me, I haven't officially decided my AFSC, so I'm open to the idea just while I go to school and get my master's. So maybe.
I'm thankful for the people who will be serving for the Space Force, but I do not plan to do that.
You mean you don't want to do football practice on the moon?
No, sir.
Let's throw it back to Colonel George Mazzeo to wrap us up today.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. Thank you all for asking some really good questions. You saved me and yourselves from a war story, so you ought to feel pretty good about that. And I would like to take this opportunity to first thank Joe Floyd and all his team and all the guys that were mentioned at the start of the meeting to put this together. It went a lot smoother than I thought it would. When I was on active duty, I once worked for a 2-star, and we had a he asked me to submit a plan to him, and I did. And he said, you know, George, the only thing wrong with this plan is that it depends on 11 consecutive miracles. And I thought, well, that's kind of what today depends on too. But it happened. So thanks to everybody that helped put it together. And finally, I would like to thank President Mazzeo and our current board of directors and all the board of directors and presidents that came before him for supporting this program. I think you can see it's very worthwhile. Congratulations to all our award winners, and welcome aboard to our two new detachment commanders. And over to you, President Mazzeo.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George. You are much appreciated, sir. You're talking about the 11 consecutive miracles. It makes me think of maybe one of the stories in one of your well-penned books, and so that I so much enjoyed. And you stole my thunder a little bit, because I wrote down right here, kudos to Joe. I mean, what each and every one hopefully understands is before every speaker Zooms in during the week, he will coordinate directly with not only speaker or craft talk and make sure that technology is working and they're able to do that. And this week was coordinating 7 or maybe 8, if I was following correctly. And so it takes a lot of work, and he makes that happen, and very much appreciated. And also to Jenny and Jeff for coordinating the awards. To Cadet Harris, Midshipman Reppert, and Cadet Payne. Hopefully your awards have made it via U.S. Postal Service. If not, hopefully they will very soon. We appreciate you. We know not only are you doing great things in the service, in the ROTC, but you obviously have a great high standard in selecting the University of Florida, and so we recognize that as well. Watching the chat and taking note here, there were many, not questions, but many comments as far as how impressive each of you are and how you carry yourself. And I know that goes back to Captain Dunn, Captain Hath, and Lieutenant Colonel Miller. And thank you for your work at the university and with the ROTC and the students as well. So great day. I appreciate each and every one that attended. We actually bumped up our live attendance to 30. And Zoom hit 62 at one point, so 92 for the day. That's awesome. I appreciate it. We will finish, before I get to the quote, next week's program will be John Nanny, the 3 Ps of polio. So hopefully as Rotarians, this will hit home and be a very applicable presentation. You know, we talked about the past 2 weeks as far as Africa proclaiming victory over polio. And so what a timely message that we'll hear next week. So hopefully you can either Zoom in or attend live. I know there's been different questions about the links, et cetera. We're going to work on a very consistent basis of how we email out the registration for lunch as well as the Zoom link. So we'll get that perfected, and we'll get a common, very easy to use, Joe and I are working together, easy to use format. So look for that to come. And quote of the day, motivation is the art of getting people to do what you want them to do because they want to do it. Dwight D. Eisenhower. Thank you each and all, and have a great week.